Hey there, Scott here from SocialNRG Presents, and thanks for joining us for another great episode. Our guest today is Bill Henderson, best known for his work with the iconic band Chilliwack, one of Canada's top recording acts in the 70s and the 80s. As lead singer, guitarist, producer, and songwriter, Bill played a major role in the success of an impressive 12 albums released between 1969 and 1985. Songs like Lonesome Mary, California Girl, My Girl, Gone, 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 and What You Gonna Do garnered the band a host of awards and international acclaim. The band was also featured multiple times on Dick Clark's American Bandstand. Bill's talents as a recording producer have been much sought after over the years, culminating in a Juno Award in 1982 for Producer of the Year.
Producer of the Year, Bill Henderson and Brian McLeod, Chilliwack.
Bill was also a director of the Canadian Association of Recording Arts and Sciences for 6 years and a champion and defender of music creators' rights as a past president of SOCAN. Bill also served as president of the Songwriters Association of Canada and was inducted into the Order of Canada in 2016. And today, Bill joins us from his home on Salt Spring Island, British Columbia for a very intimate look back at his career and to bring us up to speed on what he's been working on next. So sit back, relax, and get ready, as SocialNRG now presents you with your Backstage Pass.
Hey, Bill. It's nice to see you. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, man.
It's fantastic. So let's just talk about Sonny Landreth. We were doing that off camera. So you were talking about this whole thing with the accent tuning and trance performance bridge pickup. And so you're talking about, so tell me about it more.
It's the trance performance thing is a way of, it's something that goes onto your guitar. It's right around the bridge, and it will hold a variety of different tunings. It's got a computer in it. It'll hold a variety of different tunings, and it's got little motors, little servo motors, one for each string. And you tell it, when you set up the tunings, you tell it what pitches you want it to be, and it remembers that. And you just press the button in the middle of things, and within a few seconds, it takes about 3 seconds, you're in the new key. And Sonny Landreth is this fabulous blues guitar player, and plays behind the slide all the time and does all this really cool stuff. And he plays in different tunings. So like he's going along in one tune and the tune's over and he hits the button there and bam, he's in a new tuning.
Wow. This
is an incredible thing. So I'm working on that. I'm going to get that on a guitar.
Is that right? So where they said they're made what, in Oklahoma?
In Colorado. A guy named Neil Skin, and Accent Tuning is their website and the new name of the company. So yeah.
And what did Jimmy Page have to do with this?
Jimmy Page worked with Neil on developing this bridge. So he was interested, and he's done a couple albums where he used it. And I've seen him playing it. I saw him playing it in a demo. And one of the cool things about it is if you're playing away in one key and you hold the chord, press the button while it tunes, you get this wonderful kind of and then you're in the other key, right?
Right. It's almost like these weird portamentos from the old keyboard, the old synthesizers and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, I was gonna say, so I want to go back. I got to go back with you. So I was sort of going through your discography and stuff, and one thing I realized is that you actually did Reno on your first album and then redid it again on the Dreams.
Yeah.
What was the story with that? Did you just wanted to make the performance and the recording better,
or? Yeah, it's hard to remember exactly. I know we were reaching for tunes, and it felt like that tune fit with the rest of the album nicely. I know that Shelley Siegel really liked it. Shelley was the guy who was the head of Mushroom Records at that time, right?
Right.
And we were really asking him to trust us a lot. He'd come in and go, guys, it's been a while. Like, when's this album going to be done? And we'd say to him, Shelley, do you want an album or do you want a great album? And okay, I want a great album. And so
how long are we talking about?
That we worked on that album?
That particular one, yeah. Dreams.
It was several months. I can't remember how many. It was probably about 4 or 5 months anyways.
Yeah, which is really nothing by nowadays standards.
Yeah, I know.
Back then, you had to get on the road though. Back in those days, it was like in and out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That did happen quite a bit.
Well, that was the album that turned my crank. I remember because I'm from Ontario,
Yeah.
Sault Ste. Marie. So not many things like there was. It seemed like Manitoba was the dividing city. Like there was things that were west of Manitoba and things that were east of Manitoba. Or pardon me, Winnipeg, I should say. And but Crazy Talk hit the radio in Sault Ste. Marie. And that's when I first heard Chilliwack. Now, you guys were out before that because I think Crazy Talk was around 73, 74, I think.
Yeah, I was right in there, yeah. Yeah, so our first album was in 1970. And had Reno on it, yeah.
Right, and where was that recorded?
New York, actually.
Really?
That album was recorded in 36 hours, quite different than the 3 or 4 or 5 months.
Well, I can see why you wanted to redo Reno then. I'm sure you probably spent 36 hours just on that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, weird. But but Dreams, that's the album that got me. Like California Girls, Fly at Night, and what else? The other hit that was on that album was
Baby Blue.
Baby Blue. Yeah. Okay. Your daughters, Camille and Saffron. I love Saffron. I know Camille on a fringe. I actually took a vocal lesson from her once.
Cool.
Yeah, no, she's great.
Yeah.
And they're both so talented, and Saffron's one of the nicest people in the world. But so, who was Baby Blue in the song?
There was no one really. It wasn't anyone in particular, really. It was really about having this really sad place that a person is in and how they need to talk, how they need to express it, how they need to have someone to listen to them, right? And that's what it is. The part I'm saying is, you can tell me. You can tell me this stuff. Go ahead and just tell me, who did this? What is this about? And so that's what it was.
Yeah, well, that's sort of when I first heard the song. I mean, I'm a music guy first, lyric guy second.
Yeah.
So I although I knew the song, Baby Blue, you're singing along with it, but I wasn't really getting into what the lyric was about, until later on. Much later on, I actually produced a version of that song with a girl named Rachel Chatour singing it.
Oh yeah, I know
we
Rachel.
Actually, and Camille and Saffron sang on it as well.
Cool.
It was great because at the time I'd moved my studio into this rehearsal space, which was nice. It was nice of the guy because he basically gave me the space for free, and it was sort of up in an upper loft area that was enclosed and everything was fine. But right below me, there would always be these heavy metal bands that would play. So when Saffron and Camille came in to sing their in the background, it's like, oh, you're underneath through the wall. So it's actually in the recording, but I did a roll off at about 300 cycles. So all you get is the air of the vocals. Because if I actually had it flat, you'd hear all that in the mix.
Right.
It was just so dirty. But that song turned out really nicely. It was really good. I was happy because I got to play my upright bass in it too. So.
Oh, wow. Nice.
It's just a beautiful song. But getting back to the lyric, it was at that time because Rachel was kind of doing it for, was it like a child thing? I don't know. I forget what the cause is. Forgive me. But and that's when I went, well, this definitely could be about a father talking to his child.
Yeah,
but it makes sense to you what you're saying though. It could be anybody talking to anybody. Hey, you need a shoulder, I'm here for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people have been hurt,
and continue to be hurt.
Yeah, so it's
But so I got to go back. So you were born where?
Vancouver.
You were born in Vancouver?
Vancouver General.
And your parents, what did they do?
My dad was an optician. He worked for, when I was born, for some reason I can't remember where he worked. Anyways, he was an optician and started out in, he started out in Port Arthur.
Oh,
Port Arthur.
Yeah, Port Arthur, Fort William, Thunder Bay.
Fort William. Actually, it was Fort William. That's it. Okay. And anyway, then in Vancouver, he was an optician, and then we moved to Vancouver Island, and he had his own business there, making glasses for people in Nanaimo. Okay. So we were just south of Nanaimo in a place called Yellow Point, which is a great place, beautiful place.
But you were born in Vancouver, went to Fort William, and then came back to the island?
No, actually, when they were in Fort William, I wasn't around. Then they came out to Vancouver, and I was born.
Oh, I see.
And then when going into grade 2, we moved to the island. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I was brought up on the beautiful Vancouver Island with the arbutus and the beautiful fir trees, and just across the road that went by, sort of like a highway, but it was a country road. In fact, it wasn't even paved. I could walk down to the water, and there was really nice people, the Pavies there. They'd let us use their dock and could swim whenever we wanted to go down to swim. We could do that. And he had a little rowboat tied up he had many boats, but he had this rowboat especially for the kids around there who wanted to just get out and row around the bay. And you could just get in there, and you didn't have to ask permission. You just get in there and row around, right?
What a sweet guy. Back in those days, there was a lot of neighbors like that back when we were growing up. Yeah. You know, it just seemed like a simpler time somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But so you mentioned the arbutus tree. So as we were talking about off camera, like I got married in 2018, and Kelly was from Victoria, and it just sort of made sense for me to come over here. I haven't regretted it. We got a beautiful place on Glen Lake here in Victoria, but my backyard, we have an arbutus tree, and it sort of grows out. The trunk comes right out from our deck and leans away from the house, but beautiful tree. But my God, the maintenance, it never stops. Every day I'm doing something. If it's not shedding, it's shedding, it's dropping berries. If it's not doing that, it's dropping leaves. That tree is so much, they're beautiful, but they're the weirdest thing. And they're only native to here, aren't they?
Yeah, I believe so. It's, I don't know where else they are. Southern Gulf Islands and Southern Vancouver Island on the East Coast, on the east side of the island. Yeah, that's where they happen.
Well, they're like the platypus of trees because they're deciduous, but they don't lose their leaves. You know, they have all these weird traits about them that don't make sense. They're a total anomaly.
They lose their leaves, but they're always putting more on. So that's another thing you'd be cleaning up, I'm sure.
Oh, daily.
Not to mention the bark.
Yeah.
Which is always stripping off and coming down. Right?
Absolutely.
And the thing they love most is to come up in the middle of a fir forest and lean over like this and put one big branch over a fir tree just to hold them up. And then they just go way out, almost, horizontal.
Yeah.
They're really amazing.
Well, they are a stunning looking tree, but like I said, the maintenance is unbelievable.
Yeah.
My leaf blower is my best friend. It's always plugged in my backyard. It's always, because I know I'm going to get out in the morning and I have to blow off the deck every day. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what time of year.
Yeah.
Because Anyway, so now let's get back. So now you're living in Nanaimo, you said?
No, Salt Spring Island.
No, now you're living in Salt Spring. But going back when you were a kid. So you're
that other now. Yeah. Okay.
The other now. Sorry. Yeah. So you're living near Nanaimo. Your dad's an optician. And what does your mom do?
Oh, my mom's a housewife.
Yeah.
She's a housewife. She's home all day, making a beautiful house. And she sang all the time. So she'd be doing all these different things, and she'd be singing, "Some enchanted evening, you will see a stranger." Now, all these different songs, these old 40s songs, right?
Right.
And so I got this education in that music from her. I would say to her, "Oh, Mom," but, because I hated those old songs, but I actually learned a lot from them. They're so melodic, and then when I heard them in actual arrangements and hear what the chords were doing, it was like, wow, that's amazing. What is that,
Yeah, it's amazing how much smarter my parents got as I got older.
I don't know how that happens. Yeah,
I know, it's very bizarre. But so that you knew where I was going with that, because were your parents musical? I mean, you just said your mom sang. Did she play? Did your dad play?
My dad had played clarinet until he had kids, and then he stopped. And I don't know how much he had played, but he did play the Kitsilano Boys Band, so that was a pretty cool little outfit. And that would have been in the late 40s. Yeah, late 40s. No, hang on. No, it would have been early 40s when he was in late 30s, early 40s. So he had musical. He liked music. And right up to the day he died and he was 101. Wow. And in Nanaimo, he had a place in Nanaimo, and he loved to sing, but he couldn't sing in tune. Like, it's kind of a funny thing. Like, he'd go, whoa, because he loved that sound, right? And yeah. But
my dad played guitar years and years ago. Back in those days, he said his fingers used to bleed because he'd have the biggest strings on the guitar because there was no amplification. So he'd be playing with these accordion players and stuff and just beating the crap to playing these dances, right? But and he ended up buying his dream instrument when he retired, an accordion. He finally could afford an accordion, which is what he always wanted. Wow. But the weirdest thing about my dad, he had an incredible ear. He really did. I mean, he helped me with chord changes and stuff when I was a kid, but he would whistle out of tune. Like, he would whistle a song totally out of tune. He would sing it in tune, but whistle it totally out of tune. One day I said to him, I said, Dad, how come you whistle out of tune? He went, what are you talking about? I said, you whistle out of tune. That's not the melody. Anyway, he didn't know. I mean, but he worked back then. He worked for Weyerhaeuser, and he was a lumber grader. So he was beside those machines all day. And it might have taken that edge out of his voice, or probably out of his hearing range.
That really high frequency.
He may not have been able to hear his own whistling. But
because that's a pretty high frequency usually, and no low stuff in it.
No.
Maybe you could hear the low stuff. Wow.
Yeah, no, it's pretty bizarre. But anyway, so when did you start playing guitar? And by the way, Ed, your brother, who's a brilliant guitar player, acoustic player, is just so, like, I hear some of the stuff he does, and he's like, scary guy. But are you two of the only siblings?
No, we have a sister and another brother.
Oh, okay.
And our brother is an actor.
Oh.
Fred, and my sister Joan was a singer. Not anymore.
Oh. But
she was a wonderful singer.
And where did they live?
Joan's in North Van, and Fred is East Van.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where does Ed live? What area?
East Van as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you've been on Salt Spring for how many years now? Salt Spring Island.
28, I think it is. Yeah. 28. And we were here in the 70s. So we were here from 70 to 73, and then we moved back to Vancouver because I really couldn't pursue a career with Chilliwack while I was living on the island, because we were living in a teepee and we did not have a phone.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think Saffron told me about that. There was a time when your family lived in a teepee.
Yeah, that's right.
Literally.
So, yeah. So we went back to Vancouver for 20 years and then came back here in 93. Yeah, the teepee was amazing. I'll tell you what. We have no idea what it is to be outside. We live in houses and we work in buildings, and we go outside and we even go hiking. We might go camping, but you still don't know. Because what you learn when you're living all the time on the ground, like in the teepee, you're basically on the ground. I mean, we had carpets and stuff, but you're on the ground.
Right.
And the ground goes like this, it's not flat, and it doesn't ring when you step on it or anything like that. And we go outside, you're outside all the time. You don't live in a teepee. You come in the teepee to sleep at night, or if you got really, really bad weather, you come in to get out of the weather. Other than that, you're outside all the time. So we're outside all the time. When it's raining, it's not a problem. You're outside. It's no big deal. We didn't have running water. The running water was a creek, and it was beautiful. Beautiful water. It was great. And heating the teepee, we had a little wood heater with a pipe coming out the flaps, right? And it was. I would come in and visit my mom in Vancouver sometimes, and she lived in one of those old sort of Victorian style houses, actually more arts and crafts kind of place, where you'd go up some steps to get up to the porch, and then now you're knocking on the front door.
Right, like one of those 3-story type styles?
Yeah. And I'd go and visit her and be there for a few days. And the whole time I was there, walking around on those floors, I could not get over the weird sensation of being suspended in midair.
Isn't that something, huh?
How often do you think about the basement when you're walking on your kitchen floor? You don't, right? You believe in your house. You believe that's the ground, right? It's not.
It sort of reminds me of Stephen Wright, the comedian, the real droll comedian Stephen Wright. He says, "I'm not afraid of heights, I'm afraid of widths." If you think about it, if you're on the 90th floor of a building, you're not afraid of heights. You're walking on that height. It's the width. If you're walking this much at 93 floors, that's a difference.
Now that's the problem. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm not afraid of heights, I'm afraid of widths.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
You analyze it, it's actually much more than a joke.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you started playing guitar when? Like when did music hit you? And who was your major influence? Were you a Beatles guy too, or are you before the Beatles or?
Before. Yeah, it was Elvis and the Everly Brothers and Buddy Knox and Buddy Holly. Buddy Holly had Peggy Sue, oh how my heart yearns for you. That was a huge song, and I was in grade 7.
Right.
So the music had been around, rock and roll had been around already for a couple of years.
Right.
And it just exploded in my mind. That was the most incredible, exciting thing. I loved it, and I wanted to play guitar right away. So my parents gave me a guitar for Christmas.
What kind?
It was like a Stella. I don't know what it was.
Acoustic though. Acoustics like.
Yeah.
Stella. It could have been a K. It could have been.
A K. Exactly.
They were probably all made in the same factory.
Yeah. My next one was a K. I know that for sure. Because I went for about 3 years after that guitar was unfortunately destroyed. I went for about 3 years with no guitar, and I played a bit of sax, and I played piano, I played a bit of drums, and then I what was it now that got me? I can't remember what it was, but I said to my mom one day, I gotta have a guitar. So I went out and I got the K, right? And I figured out, I know what it was. Piano. On piano, I figured out, I was playing, how if you take lessons, you're playing these songs, you don't really understand what you're playing. You're just learning the notes and you're playing them, right? And at a certain point, I get to C major and I'm going, and then I go up to F, and I went, whoa, shit, that's great. And I said, whoa, shit, I wrote a song. I figured I'd written a song. I played it for my teacher, and he said, well, that's blues. That's it's not really a song. It's blues. And so as soon as I had done that, I understood the most simple, basic harmony. And then I needed a guitar badly. So I got a guitar and I tuned it to a chord because I didn't know any better. I just tuned it to it. So it was a major chord. And I'd slide up, 5th fret, 7th fret, open, and boom, do, bound, stuff like that, right?
Right.
And
Kid plays like that to this day. So does Tommy James. Tommy James from Tommy James and the Sondells, open tuning.
All kinds of people do.
That's why all of his songs are in major chords.
Yeah, and Don Everly for Wake Up Little Susie. Yeah,
that has to be open tuning because I tried figuring it out. It's got to be open tuning.
I saw him play it, in a video that you could find yourself. I'm sure an old Kinney of him playing, and that's what he was doing.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So that stuff.
How much was the K guitar? Do you remember how much the K guitar was worth?
No.
My brother bought one for $17. I remember that. That was way before I played. That's the guitar I learned on. The strings were like 2 inches off the neck.
Yes.
I swear to God, my hands are still cramped because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about bleeding fingers.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Big time. And it was like the best plywood.
Yeah.
The absolute best plywood. Guaranteed never to age.
That's Marine grade.
Yeah. So, okay. So what age was that?
So by the time I got to the second guitar, like the first one happened, I was probably in grade 5 or 6. It was grade 6.
So
I remember where I was sitting.
Around 11 years old.
Yeah. So I was 11, 12 years old. Yeah. And then, the other one was I was around 15.
Okay.
And then, we were up in Fort St. John actually when this happened with the K guitar, living in Fort St. John. And we came back down to Yellow Point in the summer. And a lovely, lovely young girl from Palo Alto, California taught me how to actually finger chords on a ukulele, right?
Okay.
He showed me how to, and so I was getting D formation, C formation, G, E, A, that stuff, right?
Right.
That was
which translates, to a guitar.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was my introduction to that. And so for a long time, I only played on the top 4 strings of the guitar.
Right.
Right.
Well,
right.
Sounds like John Lennon.
Oh, okay. Is that right?
He learned guitar, but his mom played banjo, so he tuned it like a banjo and really played the 4 strings.
Really? Yeah.
It wasn't Paul McCartney was one that showed him how to actually play real chords.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So okay, so you had that guitar, and that happened when you were around 15 years old. So really, you kind of arrived late. When did you start your first band?
Real late. Well, I sort of had a little bit of a band in Fort St. John, but it wasn't. I mean, we only ever played 1 gig. And the other thing that was happening was that I was learning folk songs that I was really liking the Kingston Trio by then. Right. Rock by then had sort of, to me, it had sort of gone a little awry, and it went awry for a few years there. I felt it didn't, what I loved was the old stuff from the southern states, the stuff that the old rock kick-ass stuff from the southern states. And when it got up to New York and places like that, it just, the Beach Boys in California, it was a little bit too, I don't know what it was.
Homogenized.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And, hey, I just heard, this is a sharp left here, but I just heard an incredible recording. And I was driving and I was listening to the radio, and they were talking about Massey Hall in Toronto opening that night. And that Gord Lightfoot was going to open. It's been renovated for the last 2 years. Okay, but before they started talking about that, they played this track, and I heard it. And it was like, it was jazz, and it was kick-ass, and it was like, I went, man, that sounds like it could be Salt Peanuts, right? And then guys start going, Salt Peanuts, and then just kicking this. If you know that tune, it's just like an amazing thing.
I don't.
And it was Dizzy Gillespie, Max Roach, Charlie Parker, all the greats playing. And this was, I think, this was in 1953, live from Massey Hall. Now, what's cool about it is it was full of mistakes. And it was so full of life. You didn't give a shit about the mistakes. It was like, these guys, listen to them. Listen to what they're doing, right? They're just smoking, right?
Well, that becomes like a topic of concern all the time, is that music is becoming so perfected. There's rarities. There's rarities out there. One of them being like Donald Fagen's album, The Nightfly, is so perfect, and yet I can still listen to it over and over and over again. But a lot of albums I get bored with. The Beatles albums I don't get bored with because I'm always hearing this weird mistake or something they've done that's odd. Yeah. John Lennon was notorious for that. Yeah. He would play the wrong thing that ended up being cool.
They would use it. Yeah.
I was listening to, one day I was listening to Tell Me Why. If you're going, if it's in D, you're starting, say E minor 7th to A, don't ba, and then tell me D to B minor.
Yeah.
Well, I'm listening. One guitar is playing E minor 7th. The other one is playing E major, or E 7th.
Oh, wow.
And you're listening. They're both doing it, but somehow it works. It's like at the beginning of Hard Day's Night. I mean, George Harrison is doing that F9 on his 12 string.
That's what he's playing. Well, so, okay. Then what else is happening? I never knew what that was.
And John Lennon's playing a D sus against the F9.
So he's got the 9th. The sus is the 9th of the F.
Yeah.
And the 7th is the 5th of the F. And the A of the sus is, but the D.
But McCartney's playing a D. McCartney plays a D on the bass.
Oh, wow.
Against the F9 that George Harrison is playing on the 12 string. And John Lennon's playing a D sus. And apparently George Martin is playing a D triad on the piano all at the same time. And that's the magic of that chord. That's
an incredible chord. I love that chord.
And it was added in later. Apparently the story goes is that was that Michael Lindsay Hogg with that one too? The first Beatles? Because they wanted something that arrived, like they could go bang on the screen.
Yeah.
They already knew the Hard Day's Night was going to be the song, but they needed something at the beginning and something at the end. And Harrison came up with both things. He came up with that first chord,
Yeah.
and then at the end we're going down, da, 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 because it fades off into a scene, right?
It's really nice. Yeah.
And the song didn't have that at the beginning. They tagged those two things on.
Right on.
So,
right on. Yeah.
Interesting. But anyway, yeah, that's the thing. Mistakes made the music to me. That's why Jim Valance, or Mike Sicoli or Jeff Neal, we all talk to each other literally still like once a week. Hey, did you hear this? This is what they're doing on this album. Really? Oh, you go back and go, oh yeah. And it's usually a mistake.
Yeah.
But it makes it this magical moment that would have never happened,
Right.
And, when everything's so perfected, you don't get that, it seems.
I know. And, I remember producing bands in the 80s and they all wanted to be perfect. And I kept trying to say to them, look, what's really important is the energy. And if if there's a little mistake, I mean, what's the big deal, right? And then I got this pickup gig playing at the American downtown in Vancouver. And I was going to sing a couple songs with this band, right? And I wanted to do Up Around the Bend, which was a Creedence song, right?
Right.
So I'm trying to learn the words. I'm going through, I'm listening really closely to the record. And there's one place where I can't understand what he's saying. And it's right around that time that I realized that he doubled his voice. That's a double. It's really tight. But at this point, he said a different word. So there's two different words at exactly the same moment. They didn't change it. It's hilarious. And I just wanted to be able to go to those bands and say, if you ever notice that big mistake, that honker in the middle of that tune? No.
It's not so far away, because we were talking with Mike Fraser, and he was talking about Permanent Vacation by Aerosmith and the song Ragdoll. It was originally called Ragtime, and they completed the song as it's called Ragtime. But Claudner, the head of the company, or I think it was A&R guy or whatever, he said, you can't call the song Ragtime. It just, that sounds vulgar to me. You got to change it. So they used there was a line, the word ragdoll in there. They changed it to the title Ragdoll. But Mike Fraser says if you listen to the two-part vocal, it's still singing ragtime against Steve's new vocal saying ragdoll.
Yeah. And
if you listen, it's there.
Yeah.
It's like it goes by you really fast.
You don't think about it. Yeah. Here's another one for you. One of my favorite recordings of all time is the Flamingos, I Only Have Eyes for You, from the 50s, right? Just killer.
I do that in our Simon and Garfunkel show. I love that song.
Oh, it's so great. So I've played it a few times and I've had people and they go, shabop, shabop. They go, shabop, shabop. And I go, and I'd listen and I'd go, that doesn't sound like shabop, shabop, but I can't tell what it is. So then I read an interview with the guy who arranged it, who was one of the band members. He's a guitar player. And he talked about how he wanted to make something he wanted that song to be really kind of mystical. And certainly they got that vibe happening, right? And when they got to those background vocals, he said, I didn't want anyone to know what we were saying, so we all said different things. Somebody might have gone shabab, shabab. But somebody else was doing something else, and someone else was doing another thing.
Oh, it's so funny. It reminds me of backup vocals. Once again, going back to the Beatles. I'm sorry. I guess it's because the new Peter Jackson things got me going on my mind here. But Girl.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
Kind of, and the background vocals are going tit, 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 tit.
I never heard that.
Yeah, that's the backup vocals. They did it on purpose because they just try to slide it in there, get it on the radio, get it. It's like they would go to each other. We got away with that one.
Yeah. That had to be John.
Well, it could have just as well been Paul. I mean, he came off nice, but he had his naughty side. And Harrison had a really macabre sense of humor too. So yeah, so it could have been any of them, but yeah. Tit. Actually, you're probably right. It probably was John, actually. Anyway, so getting back to it. So dreams. I remember I was on the road with Shama. We were in the prairies, and I remember hearing California Girl and just going, oh, wow. And just that turned my head. That's when I realized how wonderful you were. Your voice, and I knew you wrote the songs. You're a majority writer of the songs. And then Fly at Night, of course, which I still play to this day. Just wonderful songs, just wonderful songs. And then the band sort of drifted. What happened? It went from the Collectors into the first Chilliwack band had some of the Collectors. Was Howie Vickers ever part of Chilliwack?
No, that was the difference, was that one member not being there.
Okay, so who are the members? Let's say your first album was 1970. So who are the members then?
Yeah, so it was Claire, Ross, Glenn, and myself.
Okay, and then that stayed for how long? Till
stayed a couple years. Let me think. There was two albums, and then Claire left the group.
Right, because Claire wasn't any part of Dreams. I know that.
No. And the third album, which was All Over You and had Groundhog on it, was just Ross, Glenn, and I.
Oh, okay.
And then we added Howard Froese.
Oh, right.
And I don't remember if Howard was on the album with Crazy Talk on it. I just don't quite remember. He might have been. I'm not sure. Anyway,
All Over You was 72, and the album with Crazy Talk, Riding High, that was 74. So it's possible he was there.
Yeah, but by 75 for sure he was, and he played the solo in Baby Blue, that lovely acoustic solo.
Oh, he did, eh?
And, yeah.
Oh, cool.
And so then we were a quartet. And we did so well with that record, and I really have to credit Ross a lot with the production on that record, because I sang California Girl for 3 days, the lead vocal, 3 days.
Really?
Yeah, full days, like whatever they were, 6 hours, 8 hours. I sang that vocal, and we punched everything.
Wow.
And the thing about it was, it went across my break, and I did not know how to handle that. I could go into falsetto, I'd be fine. I could sing below the break, I'd be fine. But that song keeps crossing, right? In the middle of a line, you're going.
So what's your break note? Around B, C, something like that?
No, it's around F sharp G on
G.
on the guitar, 3rd fret, high E, around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where you slip into falsetto from.
California. That's like an A G. Yeah. So the E. Yeah. Anyway, in there was the break, and I had a hell of a time. I couldn't do it, right? So Ross was really patient. He said, and it was his conception that I would sing falsetto all the time on that album, that I would sing quietly on that album. I know some people had said to him, if I hear another record with Bill screaming, I'm going to go nuts. So we tried this. This was our new direction. Lots of acoustic guitar, very soft vocals, and lots of vocals. And that was really his thing. He picked up on what I was doing musically, but I was not that aware of it, and he was more so.
Yeah, anyway, he was able to look from the outside in.
Yeah,
inside
exactly.
out.
Yeah.
Right.
He said, Jesus, how the hell do you sound so innocent? I know you're not.
Well, that's great. And but Dreams, and it did well. It charted.
Yeah, it did really
charted
well
in the States and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then from there you went Lights from the Valley. Now, is that when McLeod came in?
Not right away. We recorded Lights from the Valley 3 times.
Oh, wow.
And I can't remember what the second one was, but when we got to the third one, Brian was there. We basically, Ross said, we need another. I mean, my creativity would go like this. It was up and down. And that's the way it was. Like, I couldn't help it. Like, I was not writing from a craft place. I was writing from what comes to me place. California Girl, I never changed anything. It just came out of me. I just sat down at the guitar and started playing it, and the song came out. And that was it. Mm. Same with Crazy Talk. It never, of course, that one, you can sort of imagine that. But Fly at Night was a little more worked on, and some of the others were a little more worked on. But I would have times stretches where that wouldn't happen. I'm waiting for it to happen. Because the thing that I learned in songwriting was that nobody gave a shit about what I thought was a great idea for a song. They didn't care. Nobody cared. And when I'd sit down with my guitar and so I'd just start playing, and every once in a while, like once every month or 2 or 3 weeks, something would come along. My wife would say, I like that. What is it? I'd go, I don't know. And but I'd keep playing it because somebody liked it, right? And that was my process. I was not okay. We got verse, chorus, bridge. You know what? We need a verse B to get into that chorus. And that kind of sense. I just didn't do that. I just felt it. It came out, and that was that, right? So I'd have down periods. So we were in one. We'd finished Dreams, Dreams, Dreams. We're on to the next album, Lights from the Valley, and I got nothing, right? I got these songs. I got tons of ideas, but nothing that anybody cared about. So Ross said, we need another person in the band. And I said, okay.
Well, now, where did you find Brian?
Well, our manager.
There's a tour de force in himself, you know.
Our manager found him. He was in Toronto, and our manager, whose name is not going to come to me right now, at the time, found him in a bar, playing in a bar in Toronto, and he heard him, and he saw that he was freaking amazing. And he said, Chilliwack, the band that's got, Fly at Night and California Girl, we need another member in the band, and would you be interested? And Brian put together a demo package of things he'd recorded on his 4-track at home, which was pretty damn good. Yeah. And, his pictures and a little bit of a bio. We were going down to LA to play the Whiskey. Brian met us in LA 2 days before the show, learned all our tunes. He and I worked together like 12, 14 hours a day. We just worked to get him in with all of these songs. And that was it. And he was in. And first thing he did was we played Never Be the Same. And none of us had heard him play before. So we're having a rehearsal. It's Ross, Glenn, Howie, me, and Howard and me, and in comes Brian. So Brian's got he's got a Les Paul Special. So it's the flat, it's not the carved top, it's the flat top, 2 P90s, right? He's got the TV yellow, except at the time it was almost like a lime kind of color. It was older, and double cutaway. And he plugged into a Fender amp. It was time for the solo. We said, you take this solo. He just played this freaking beautiful solo. And I was going, oh, fuck. And Glenn and Ross were going, yeah. And that was it. That was the beginning with Brian. And so he helped pull us out a bit for that album. But we had other things happen. We had songs coming in from outside writers like Arms of Mary. That was right. Neil Sutherland, right? I think it's Neil. I
was surprised to find out you didn't write that. It sounds so much like a song you would write.
Well, that's why they said, you guys got to do this song. Yeah. It sounds like you.
Yeah, it certainly does.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what happened there. And so we managed to put, and once our right foot had done such a nice job, to get our left foot at least to go forward a little bit. Right. And without falling over. So that happened. And then the next album, by the end of that album, the band changed completely. Actually, was it going into the next one? I can't remember. The band changed completely. We basically, Ross and Howard and Glenn were all out.
Because there's a period with John Rolls and Ab Bryant came in. Is that correct?
That's right. And Brian and I got Ab in and John in. We ran. Brian was really hot on Ab, and he said, "You're going to love this guy." Wait, just
where did you find Ab? What was Ab doing? Was he?
Well, he was with.
He wasn't with Crosstown Bus, was he?
Prism.
I'm sorry.
Prism.
Oh, he was. That's right. He was in the earliest part of Prism. That's correct. Yeah. He was on that first album.
Yeah.
Or at least his picture was. I mean, it's hard to say what went on back in those days. Jim Balance did so much of that stuff. So
yeah. But, and he had his BC Rich bass, and had all that top end on it and stuff. And he was really into that Yes kind of bass. And, and that was totally new for Chilliwack. We'd never done that before. Yeah. and then we made an album, which was basically just Brian and I and Ab playing bass. And it was, John sang on it. John sang the stratospheric vocals. I do remember that.
Yeah, and Breakdown in Paradise is the album you're talking about. Right?
Yeah, Breakdown in Paradise. That album, I just had to go. We're just putting out a vinyl version of There and Back, which is our live CD, which was recorded digitally in 2003.
Yeah,
which
sounds amazing, by the way. I have it.
Thank you. Yeah, we're putting out a vinyl version now, right? So I hadn't heard vinyl for a couple of decades. So I got a machine, and I'm playing Drop the Needle with all these different records from my collection, right? And I listened to lots of great records, ZZ Top stuff. I love ZZ Top, right? And then I hit Breakdown in Paradise. Whoa, that was a great sounding record. That was an amazing sounding record. The drums and the way it sounded was just fantastic. I was really proud of that, and it got nowhere. And the reason it got nowhere was the record company went kaput.
Was that when Shelley Siegel died? Was that before Solid Gold Records?
That's right. It's when Shelley Siegel died. That's what happened. Was they were ready to go forward with that record. It was just coming out, and Shelley died in a moment.
Yeah, right? And the same thing happened with Jerry Doucette. The whole thing collapsed at that. The whole
empire all collapsed. Yeah, all collapsed. Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily for Heart, I hate to say it, but they had moved on, or else it would have happened to them too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, interesting. So now on that album, of course. Now, did you know Brian could play drums in those days? Because he didn't play drums on that album that I'm aware of.
He did actually on Communication Breakdown. Our drummer was what's his name? A guy from Toronto, really a sweet guy, little guy, and he was having trouble with So Brian ended up playing the toms, I think, while the other drummer played the kick, and they did it together.
Oh, I see.
So we started to hear Brian playing drums in there. Yeah,
that's the thing about Brian. It's just like, I mean, he was a great guitar player, great keyboard player, like the drumming.
Yeah,
I mean, My Girl, the drumming with those hi-hat cuts and stuff, that's really intricate stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just incredible.
He was a monster talent.
Yeah, and not only he was a men's mixed doubles champion and also a figure skater.
Yeah, that's right.
The guy had 1 million lives.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Shortly before he passed away, Jeff Neal and I and him did this thing called Sailor's Beat, named after his dog. It was at Club Soda. We'd play on Wednesday nights. It was an oversexed jam. Anyway, then Jeff ended up going back. I think he went out with Jimmy Barnes down to Australia. He was touring.
Right.
And so Brian said, "Hey, I got this gig lined up in Abbotsford. How about me, you, and Jeff play it?" And I said, "Well, Jeff's away." I said, "It's okay. We'll get Brent Knudsen." Right. So we got Brent to play, and the three of us, and I said, "Well, what are we going to call ourselves?" He said, "The Foreskins." I said, "What?" It's the middle of the Bible Belt, right? He says, "Wouldn't it be great seeing the Foreskins written up on the marquee in Abbotsford?" So sure enough, there it is. But there's only three of us, He said the whole idea was people were supposed to drink long enough to see the fourth skin or something.
Yeah,
God, what a guy. I remember we would do these round robin songs where we'd play we'd do something stupid like old time rock and roll. We were just playing crap. It didn't matter. The place was packed, right? And we would do those round robin songs where we'd play like a verse, chorus, and then switch round robins, and it always ended up where I'd be on the drums when Brian's on guitar. Well, the solo's going to go on for a day and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fine. But then there'd be other times when Brian, because main thing was he was on the drums, I was playing bass, and Brent was playing guitar. Well, I remember a couple of times the first time it happened was really weird because I'm playing and the drums stop. And of course, the rule of thumb is you don't want to make a note of it. So you just keep playing towards the audience. Nothing's happening. He'll come back in. And I look over to the right. Not only drums stopped playing, he's over at the bar ordering drinks. In the middle of the song, he just stopped playing and walked over and got a tray of shooters for us and came back to the stage and gave us shooters. And then we kept playing. The audience didn't care. It was unbelievable. I think we held the house record there for years after.
Wow.
But yeah, he was a really good support too. And the Vancouver music scene lost a lot of energy when he passed away.
Yeah.
He was one of those guys, he frequented the clubs a lot and had a tendency to really supercharge. When he walked into the room, everybody sort of was on alert. Okay, we better play good now. Brian's here. You feel inferior if you were acting anyway inferior. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, are you really playing or what? He'd give you hell, Yeah, bizarre. Yeah. But anyway, not to get, so after Opus 10, which is another amazing album. And once again, it's just you and Brian and Ab doing everything. Yeah. Including production, right? You guys self-produced Want to Be a Star and Opus 10, which too, like Want to Be a Star, I listened to that over and over and over again. I just couldn't believe how good an album that was. I Believe melts me. And I remember talking to Ab one day, and I said, I Believe, I just love that song. He says, don't talk to me about that song. I said, why? He says, so all I remember about that song is it took me 2 weeks to get the bass part right. I guess it was one of those things where it was just, nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's sort of like you singing California Girls for, all those days. But he says, it took forever to get that bass part. I said, well, it worked because I love the song,
Yeah. But he did a good job.
And so, I was going to ask you, is Camille and Saffron your only children? Mm-hmm. Oh, so it's just the two girls?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I wasn't sure. Because I mean,
did you find some others who profess to be? Don't tell me.
and okay, let's get back to that a bit. So you and May, when did you meet and how did you meet?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we met I keep trying to figure the actual year out. It was 64.
Wow.
64. And we met in a house. We were both in university, and we had four kids from university. We were renting a house on 8th Avenue around 8th and Oak in Vancouver. And we pretended to be a family because that's the only way that this guy would rent to us. So, that's where we got together, and we had amazing time. May had already been to Mexico probably twice. She had hitchhiked once on her own, all by herself, to Mexico, and so we went down. At the end of 64, we had a friend who had a 64 Ford convertible, brand new car. And we went down, we drove down to Mexico, right? And it turned out that he actually only made one payment on that car, but, and then decided maybe the best thing would be to leave the country. So we go down to Mexico, and we had like tons of adventures. But one of the weirdest things that happened was that we were driving this little town called San Blas, which is on the Pacific coast, not far from Guadalajara. And we were driving by these huts that people lived in that were made out of sticks. We'd never seen anything like this in our lives, right? It's like, wow, look at that. So we're going along, we're in this convertible, but they had never seen anything like that convertible in their lives. So they were gathering around the car. We're moving forward, and they're beside us and behind us, coming up behind us. All these people come out of their huts to see this car. So John, he's the driver. He decides he wants to move back to see something he missed. He put it in reverse and started inching back, and a great thing comes up from the crowd, and a little girl got hit. Oh. So the cops come. The little girl, we find a doctor. There's a doctor right on the corner. We take the little girl to the doctor with her mom, and there's a bit of abrasion on her belly, and the doctor puts some antiseptic on it, and she's fine, right? But by then the cops had showed up. By the time we come out, the cops showed up, so they impound the car, in a Mexican jail, and they put John in the jail too. So now we got to get John out of the jail. And it went on for days, but it wasn't too long really. But for us, it seemed like a long time trying to get him out of there. We finally got permission to get him out. It's a long story how that happened. But once we had permission, we wanted to get out quick. The car's impounded, and it's in the middle of the yard. And there's only one way out, and that is a very narrow driveway, and a truck full of bricks has come into the driveway, dropped its drive shaft, and is stuck. So we can't get out. Meanwhile, the people in the town, someone catches a dolphin and brings it up to the Zocalo, which is right outside of the jail. And all the employees from the jail, offices of the jail, head out like everybody else to see the dolphin, right? So we find the chief of police, and he okays this. We go and get some bricks and planks from that truck, and we set them up so that we can open the big French doors of the offices of the jail, and which were only about foot off the ground level, tiled floors. And we put these planks up on either side, and we took the car and we drove right through their office down into the front and took off.
Oh my God!
The Great Escape.
Oh jeez.
Anyway.
So and what year was that? 64. And then so when did you guys get married?
We got married in 67.
Wow.
Yeah, the collectors had been together for a year, and then we got married. Yeah, so, and Saf was born in 67.
Wow, so you guys have been married for 51 years.
Yeah.
Or 56 years, probably. 54, am I right?
Yeah.
67, right, yeah, 54,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. And so Saf was born the same year?
Yeah.
67, she's a centennial baby.
Same year this guitar was built. 67, the big old...
I missed out on a hummingbird one time. I went to this music store, and it was in it was in Port Moody. It's a place, it's still there, called Crossroads Music. Randy's a great guy. And I walk in, and there's a hummingbird there that some girl had put stickers all over, like these weird, stupid little stickers, like just like little bunnies and stuff, like dumb stuff. And somebody had actually put varnish over top of those stickers.
Oh,
so now it's actually attached to the guitar.
Yeah.
Anyway, I pick it up, and that thing sang like nothing I'd ever heard before. And he only wanted, I think it was like $800 at the time. And it wasn't that long ago. It was really like, I'm thinking probably 2000, 2001, 2002, somewhere in there.
Right.
And I went, geez, I don't know. And I went home, and I went, I've got to figure out a way. I don't have the money, but I'll give him $100 anything. So I went back, gone. But it was like one of those magical guitars. I've never heard a guitar sing like that in my life.
They're amazing.
Just the most beautiful sound.
Yeah.
Well, my very first guitar actually was a Gibson B25 Natural that my brother Kenny bought me because I didn't have a guitar. I actually played in a band for 2 years before I owned a guitar. And I just used to borrow guitars to play. Oh, wow. But my brother, for my birthday one time, this guy owed him a bunch of money. And so my brother gave him $30 and he gave him this guitar. And I had it. I wish I still had it to this day, but I was playing Klondike Days in Edmonton, and my guitar got stolen, and I had to buy something. So that's all I had. I traded that in for part of some terrible guitar, so I could play a gig. But I've been moaning for that guitar ever since it happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Ab and Brian leave Chilliwack to pursue the Headpins. I guess. Well, the Headpins, they were that was the band they put together when Chilliwack was off duty, kind of thing, in between tours. It was something to keep money coming in.
It actually was more than in between tours. What happened when Mushroom went down was they wouldn't let us out of the contract, but they couldn't record us. So there was nothing we could do, right? And because we were really a recording band at that point, So I was able to sustain myself, but Ab and Brian needed work. So they formed this band.
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, that's right, because that was before Wanna Be a Star.
Yeah.
Because Wanna Be a Star was early 80s. Wanna Be a Star was 81. Yeah. And I remember seeing the Headpins in 79.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, good. Okay,
So
now I got the timeline.
we actually went in the studio, Water Street Sound, and we're recording as Chilliwack, but on the box it said Headpins, and we were recording My Girl Gone Gone Gone, and we were recording another tune. I can't remember which one was Stereo or something like that. I can't remember which one it was. And we sent those out to management to see if we could get a deal, because we're trying to get a new record deal and someone to buy us out of Mushroom so we could proceed with our careers, right? So yeah, we were pretending that we weren't recording, but we were. And so Av and Brian were sustaining themselves that way. Yeah.
Wow. And so then they end up recording, I guess, yeah, because you guys got to deal with Solid Gold. I guess Brian parlayed that into a deal for the Headpins as well, because they were Solid Gold as well, were they not?
Yep.
Yeah. And so and then that album took off like a bullet. I mean, it was literally the fastest selling record in Canada at that time, I think.
Could be, yeah.
And so maybe it was one of those things where I figured, okay, well, let's move on. But it's so sad because you guys were such a winning combination, the three of you. Yeah. You know, I would have loved to have seen that kept going, but I'm sure you would too, maybe. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I would have, but you know, it's funny how it worked out, because I'm going to tell you the real story here, because, you know, Brian was an amazing perfectionist, right? And I learned a lot from him in that way. Like, I learned how to do that. And we would record, and when we were recording, we'd ask the engineer to let us use the machine, and we'd be doing the punches, and we'd punch in the middle of anything, and we had timing. And I learned this, and I learned it from him. He talked to me about my time. He said, you know, you should play drums. You need to work on your time, and you should play drums, and that would do it, right? So I got a kit. And I started doing that, and I really did see what was going on, like just making the two sticks land on the snare at precisely the same time. You know, it's not so easy. And so I learned a bunch of stuff from him. Okay, so we got very in the cracks. All that stuff we're talking about, perfection, that's what we were doing, right? We were making the perfect records. That's what we were doing. So it was kind of the way it was going on those days. Anyway, long story short, before we went out and toured Opus 10, because we never toured Want to Be a Star, but then it did really well, but we didn't go out and tour it. And so we did Opus 10, and now it was time to go out and tour. And Brian came up with this thing, and he and Ab, basically, we had a meeting, and he said, you know, why don't you come out on this tour and just sing? Don't play your guitar. He said, thing is, it's really hard to get the tuning to really sit nice with the two guitars. So, you know, it was hard for me, because it was like a rejection. You know, you could take it that way. Yeah. And part of me did. Yeah. But I said, well, okay, I'll give it a try. I've always kind of been that way. I would try almost anything, right? And so we went out, and it was all wrong for me. I just didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't have a guitar. You know, it's always been the guitar. Singing came much later. The guitar was where my music came from, right? And so halfway through that tour, and I blew my voice and everything. So halfway through that tour, we just cut it. We just ended it. We got back into Vancouver. We flew back into Vancouver. The next day, I got a call from Brian, and he said, you know, he says, I think I want to make Headpins my top priority. And I said to him, you know, that doesn't work for me. And because, you know, I'd sort of had enough too, right?
Yeah. Well, I can see now that you tell that side of the story, it's like,
yeah,
wow, pretty shocking, actually.
Yeah, we both had I was really sorry that I couldn't influence him as much as he influenced me, that I couldn't get him to see the other side, that when you sing something and it has an energy to it, it's got an energy to it, and there's a wrong note in it, or there's a little bit of tuning, maybe that's not such a big deal. Maybe what you really want is this musical phrase to connect with people. Maybe that's what you really want, rather than being perfect. I could not get him to see that. So, and it's probably not entirely fair to him to say that because he, when you went to see him play, I mean, there was no lack of energy.
Yeah, of course.
He's playing his guitar. It's like, whoa, shit, it's like, it's really there. So, I say that with that caveat. I have to attach that caveat to it. But anyway, so that's how we went our separate ways. But the cool thing was that we still were friends. We ended in a way where we understood. Neither of us liked certain things, and it made us split up. But we weren't fighting about it.
I went to see him 2 weeks before he died at the hospital, and
Right.
of course I walked in, and of course I was shocked at how much he disintegrated. I mean, he was so skinny, as you know, and no hair. And the only reason I knew it was him is because on the back of his wheelchair it said "Too Loud." Yeah. And I remember walking up, and so I'm visiting him, and we're yakking and laughing away. Denny Driscoll was there, I believe, and his girlfriend Marguerite at the time. And I think they were actually planning their wedding, but if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And but as I'm leaving, Brian wheels beside me in his wheelchair, and he walks up, he goes, "Hey, Mick," he says, "I love seeing you, man." He said, "But next time you come, make sure to call first, because Bill and I are doing a new Chilliwack album." It was 2 weeks before he passed away. I mean, he was sick as a dog, and he was still absolutely motivated. Like nothing was going to stop that guy.
No.
Sam, I remember you sang at his funeral. You did Fly at Night at his funeral. I remember that. And if I remember correctly, I think Sam Feldman spoke and said that Brian had asked him for an advance on the next album a week before he died.
I forgot that, but yeah.
Like,
I know.
Crap. No, there's a guy who, like, cancer wasn't going to stop him. He didn't care. He was just so motivated. Like, but that reminds me, just as a nerd here, how did you guys go about recording songs like, let's say, Gone, 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 My Girl? Like, what was the bed track? Was it you on a guitar and him on drums type of thing? Or was it the three of you playing bass, drums?
I think what probably happened is what we kind of normally did was we would, Ab and I would play with him, and he'd be playing the drums, and we'd basically just be going for a drum track.
Right.
So he'd hear the song going by and all of that, and he'd get the drum track worked out. Then we'd get the bass, and Ab would do the bass, and then we'd play guitars and pianos and stuff like that, and build it up. That's kind of how it went.
One of the most beautiful most beautiful moments in pop music history is that chord you guys hit. My girl.
Right.
Oh my God. What a moment. I still hear that and I get shivers. It was just incredible. And of course, I guess Brian's voice, he's got the "my girl."
Yeah, right. All the way down.
Oh, God. That must have taken him a lot to get those notes out.
Right down to that, right?
I know, because nowadays you tweak it with, that's analog. You had to perform it. You couldn't.
Oh yeah.
You couldn't. Well, you could vary speed, but it always sounded weird anyway if you did.
Yeah, it wouldn't be right. No, he actually sang it, and we punched the shit out of it. But he sang
it. You did.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we had to punch too is because we had it was a Neumann. I think it was a 47.
Okay.
It had a really cool sound, almost like a 40s sound. Really soft. So Brian sang it on that, and we got the thing hanging right. It's right in front of his mouth, like he's going, gong, 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 she's been gone so long, she's been gong, 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 so long. And it's all this breath happening like this. Right. And the thing would get waterlogged and quit. He'd get a couple phrases out, the mic would break down, and we'd have to wait. We learned to do this. We'd just wait for about 5 minutes or 6 minutes, and then turn it back on again, and it'd be all right. And away we go, we do some more, He's on the thing like this,
I wonder if that's the microphone they used for Nat King Cole back in the day. Because you listen to his stuff. Like I said this in another interview somewhere. I forget who I was talking to. It's like I listened to his voice just comes. It's like it was recorded yesterday. It's unbelievable. The crackle. Mind you, a microphone loved his voice, first of all. But second of all, there was something in that chain they used that was magical.
Yeah.
Incredible sound.
Yeah. Some of those old mics were really amazing. Yeah. And he just obviously had to be able to do that with that microphone, any microphone. You had to have, what a sound, his sound was just like velvet, right? Beautiful. Yeah.
And he never wanted to be a singer,
Yeah. He wanted to be a jazz. He's a player.
He just wanted to play. When they suggested, he said, I'm not a singer.
Yeah.
One of the greatest voices of all time.
Yeah.
How many times that happened, right?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, unbelievable. But I have to bring up the Recess Monkeys.
Yeah.
Now, for those people that don't know, look on SCTV on YouTube and look up the Recess Monkeys, which is a skit where it's John Candy, Rick Moranis, and Eugene Levy playing as high school students in a high school band doing their cover of Gone, 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 She's Been Gone So Long. It is one of the funniest freaking things I've ever seen in my life. And John Candy in the middle, Gone, Gone, She's Been Gone So even the gulping the thing like a kid would do when he's scared. It was like so brilliant. And they were actually playing it too. That's what
they were. Yeah. And it sounded like it.
I know, it was terrible, but it was perfect.
Yeah.
Oh God, you must have howled when you saw that.
Yeah. I had to do a quick check on it, because the first thing that hits you is that it's and you could see it as insulting, right?
Oh.
And I think Brian felt that way about it for a little while. I did for an instant, for a fairly short time, and then I just saw, that it was incredibly funny and really good for us from a career point of view.
See, it's funny because my take on it was like a total salute your way. Like,
it was that.
I don't think it was ever meant to be, derogatory.
But,
it was
but
a band is going to play their favorite song, right?
But just imagine if you've spent months in the studio crafting every detail on these things, just getting it so it's that's a little out of tune, and just perfect, and then these guys come on and they just wank it, you could see that it could be disappointing.
I imagine Freddie Mercury's turning over in his grave with some of the renditions of Bohemian Rhapsody that's out there.
No doubt.
My God, I've done some dueling piano shows out there where people request Bohemian Rhapsody, so it's two guys on pianos just butchering it, trying to do all those vocals at once. It was terrible. But yeah, so now Chilliwack morphed into itself. I got to bring up Doug Edwards. Doug was a lovely guy, and I actually lived at his home for a while he had gone to Australia to take a songwriting course of all things back, I mean, the guy wrote one of the greatest songs of all time. I mean, Wildflower is just, to this day, is just, and yes, the lyrics are wonderful, but that music, oh my gosh, like what an inspiration.
Yeah.
And
but the singing too, the singer, wow.
Oh yeah, Donnie. Oh my
Donnie
gosh.
Gerard. Yeah, beautiful.
Oh, just incredible. And of course, I think that's the first thing David Foster ever produced. So he definitely had chops back then.
He must have felt pretty good about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think about it. Alan Parsons, the first album he worked on was Abbey Road.
Oh wow. Yeah.
As an assistant engineer.
Yeah, right.
Some people and then the first album he's an engineer co-producer is Dark Side of the Moon. Some people just they're made to hit, right?
Yeah.
He actually lived in Deep Cove for a lot of his teen years.
Oh really? Huh.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah, he was
lovely.
doing an interview somewhere, and he said, he actually spent a fair amount of time before he went to England, he was English, but he'd moved to North Vancouver and lived in Deep Cove for a while, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But, incredible. But anyway, so Doug Edwards, anything to say about Doug? His time in the band. I mean, he's one of those guys that was just so incredibly talented, and you can tell why he was always the first call bass player. I mean, talk about a guy that just sat in the groove perfectly. And him and Jerry Adolph in the same band, it must have been amazing for you.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Doug had fingers like sausages, big fingers. And so when he wanted to make that bass just be hard as a rock, he could do it. And of course, he really understood the phrasing, how to groove really well. I used to call him the Groove Master. I introduced him every night as the Groove Master. And he was great. Great player. I played with Doug like way back in early 70s. I used to get quite a bit of session work. Like it was actually in the 60s, I think, late 60s. I'd get session work at Griffiths Gibson, right at the studio there anyway. And Doug would often be the bass player. That's where I got to know him. And he's a sweet guy. You know,
Humble.
He's great.
Always humble. Just a lovely guy. And I remember remember him just, he always had these guitars lying around and stuff. And he had that 12-string guitar strung like a 6-string all the time. It was like a 335, but it was a 12-string with 6 strings on it. That was sort of his go-to guitar that I remember for a long time.
The red one. The red one?
It might have been red. I'm thinking brown, but it might have been red.
Trapeze bridge? You mean
don't remember the bridge. All I remember is But you know, the first time I saw him, do you remember a guy named James Leroy had the song "Just a Touch of Magic"?
No.
Oh, he had some pretty strong hits. But there was a period of time where he sort of retired from music and ended up managing a club called the Watertown Inn in Sault Ste. Marie. And I was about 16, 17 at the time, and he used to sneak me in to see bands and this sort of thing. And he brought me in to see, oh gosh, this is terrible. And Doug's playing guitar in that band.
Okay.
Jeff Ayres playing drums. Claire Lawrence is playing.
Oh yeah, that's the hometown band.
No. But the singer, great blues singer, white guy, Vancouver, like incredible singer. Why is it not coming to me? Oh my gosh. But anyway, I remember walking in, James Leroy, and this band is just like, I'm walking, you know, I'm young and I haven't heard this kind of playing live ever, you know?
Yeah.
Sault Ste. Marie had its limits.
It wasn't Howie Vickers.
No. It'll come to me when it's way too late, I'm sure. But anyway, so I remember James Leroy saying, you know, the song Wildflower, that's the guy that wrote it. I'm going, you know, and I was just amazed. Sault Ste. Marie to see anything. I was starstruck at a street lamp. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't know. This is one of those things I flashed on. But I'm going to circle back for a second. You're talking about Brian McLeod with his groove thing and really getting timing. Yeah. I remember one time, Bernie Aubin and Jeff Neal and I started a band called Paradox. So Jeff Neal Streetheart had broken up. That version of Streetheart had broken up. He came back to Vancouver. The band I was in, Trauma, split up. So I started playing bass and Jeff played guitar. Bernie played drums. So of course, McLeod, any chance he'd get to ride Bernie, he'd come down and see us play and yell at him from the side and say, "Come on, Bernie, you can play better than that." as he was wont to do. But I remember one time because he was always really good with me. He always like appreciated anything I did. He was really a good support guy. But I remember one time he says, when you're playing 8 notes, he says, here's the secret. Don't tap 1, 2, 3, 4 on your foot. Tap on the 2 and 4. So when you're going, just have your foot anchor the 2 and 4 and you won't speed up. I went, oh. And I've used that to this day. That little piece of, because if your body is hitting the snares, if you're pushing with your foot 1, 2, 3, 4, it's easy to go like this and start playing faster. Right. But if you're anchoring down at 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, it'll keep you anchored when you're playing 8 notes. Just one of those little things that I flashed on when you were talking about his sense of time and things that were, for perfection. Nice regards for a really good reason, because you're one of the few unaffected rock stars in the world. I swear to God. You're
a sweetheart, Mick. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you. You've always had a great open personality, and you're a hell of a player.
I appreciate that. Thanks a lot, Bill. And we'll talk again soon. Thank you for everything.
All right. Cheers. Hey, adios, amigos.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us. Check out our many other episodes and vignettes for more great content. And please like, share, and subscribe, and become a member at SocialNRGPresents.com to access all our content and earn valuable energy points just for watching.